This is part two of our interview with Ali Tajskandar, Chairman and CEO of Wishpond Technologies, ticker WISH on the Venture Exchange. We are doing a deep dive into the company and markets and answering questions from our audience. If you find these interviews useful, please subscribe to the channel to see the latest videos and interviews. Thank you. Good day. It's Thursday, April the 29th. I'm Martin Gago with Radius Research. Today we're joined by Ali Tajskandar, Chairman and CEO of Wishpond Technologies. Wishpond provides online marketing services to small and mid-sized businesses. And now let's get into the deep dive. Ali, I'd like to start with your financials. One thing I noticed that is sort of unusual in a good way is typically like your adjusted EBITDA was about 500 grand. I believe that's for the year, but your cash flow from operations was over 3 million. Normally the adjusted EBITDA is the more inflated side on it. Can you just talk about the cash flows versus EBITDA and how things are adjusted?
I think there might have been a component of prepayment by some of the clients. So that might be the reason that there's some extra cash in there than the adjusted EBITDA.
All right, well, that's prepayments good. So on that, when a client signs up for your contract, does it get charged to their credit card every month or is it?
Yeah, that's generally they sign a contract for the year, but they're being billed on a month-to-month basis.
Gotcha. All right. So you talked about because you had $7 million at the end of the year, you raised 8, you deployed some to the acquisitions, and now you've got roughly $10 million or so in the bank.
$11 million, yeah, something around that.
Gotcha. And on the recurring revenue side, are there 3 ways to kind of on your revenues? You've got the sort of technology, super high margin SaaS revenues. Then you've also got SaaS, which has a lower gross margin, I would presume, because you have an account manager and there's people getting involved. And then do you also have sort of like one-time revenues, maybe upfront implementation fees, or is all of your revenues on the recurring basis?
Pretty much all the revenues recurring basis. Is quite rare for us to have project-based revenue. Quite rare. Yeah, pretty much all of our revenue. And what's also great is that the 2 companies that we acquired also operate the same way. All of their revenue is recurring as well.
All right. You mentioned 2,900 clients. Do you follow that like sort of 80-20 rule at all, where 20% of your clients provide 80% of the revenues?
Yeah,
or
for
all
sure.
Yeah.
For sure, there's some of that. I mean, one of the graphs that I showed earlier was showing that average value per month per client is actually increasing over time. So the number of clients growing is not always corresponding with revenue growth. Sometimes, a small portion of them contribute to a large part of the revenue. Or not substantially, but we do see that, probably 30% of them are providing 70% of the revenue, and there are a whole bunch of really $75 per month plans that is very hard for those ones to add up to large numbers.
All right. So it's small business, but do you have any larger businesses, like some businesses that are doing like hundreds of millions of revenue, or billion-dollar type companies as your client as well? Or is it really just focused on the small, medium-sized? And sorry, to medium-sized or small, medium-sized in the US would be considered kind of big companies in Canada. So when you say small, medium-sized, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, I'll start with the last part of that question. When I say small to medium, really for us, the sweet spot is companies between 5 employees to 20 employees, I would say. So it is a business, they're kind of, things are going well and all that. Sometimes we get on the lower end of that as well. But beyond 20, a lot of times is when they start having dedicated resources allocated to their marketing. So that's kind of the sweet spot that we see. Now, going back to the first part of your question, larger clients, yeah, for sure we have them. We work with Walmart, we work with some of the largest organizations and companies in the world that you would imagine. Largest spending and budget and all of that in the world. I cannot mention all the names, but one that I would mention, for example, is Activision, the gaming company. From time to time, they use us for launching, let's say, a game of Call of Duty, and it's for engaging their fans and all that. And people come on the platform, it scales well, it's secure, it's high quality. And I think what is interesting about that with working with these larger businesses is that it helps us understand what it takes to be successful online. And if we can serve them, well, we can actually serve the needs of the small business as well. But in terms of revenue mix, at the end of the day, those larger businesses, maybe ironically, are a small part of our revenue because they're not using us the same way small businesses use, which is ongoing. It might be more of kind of like short-term engagement and then move on, as opposed to a small business that needs us ongoing as part of their customer acquisition or as part of running their business online.
Given so with the bigger companies, it's either kind of on a project basis or maybe one small division or team within a larger organization. That's how they would use it.
Yeah, for sure.
And okay, with your do you have much churn in the sense of when your clients get over 20, 25 people, they get to 50 people, then they drop you, hire their own marketing manager, and that, do you see a lot of churn or much churn on that area?
We see some, nothing major on that side of it. And I think when you think about small businesses, you would expect a higher churn naturally anyway. Sometimes actually there's natural churn in the small business market, businesses that are starting and maybe it doesn't work out exactly for them and that kind of thing. But we are definitely on the churn side, we're industry leading and, above a lot of our competitors.
Do you have a churn number that you can share with us?
We haven't shared it publicly. We haven't disclosed it. So I think, I'll leave it more, I guess, high level than the specifics.
All right. Okay, fair enough. I'd just like to talk about your acquisitions here. Your Invigo, that's a really an industry focused acquisition in the healthcare space. And when you say healthcare, does that mean like doctors, chiropractor, physiotherapists, or
exactly.
Okay? So for those type of companies trying to grow their businesses, communicate with their patients,
get them new patient leads, set up a system of record for them to actually kind of like a CRM system for them to see who are these patients and follow up with them, set up SMS messaging so that, especially when you're dealing with patient care, a lot of times it's actually over text messaging more than even email, but there's also email component to it. And other elements such as SEO and social media management, call tracking. A lot of times people are calling these places.
Okay, and are there any other? I would think having industry-focused solutions would be very attractive. Where if you go to a HubSpot, it's just this generic kind of CRM marketing platform, where if you can come up, especially if you have internal support people and the next you do auto dealerships, or I don't know what, I'm just making
exactly. That's actually a good example.
You will kind of understand their business. Is that part of the likely or possible path forward for Wishpond?
100%. I mean, that's a likely path forward in terms of some of the agency acquisitions. So those who in a certain market have expertise that we can then come and help and scale it and put some technology behind it and go into that market, being able to speak their language, being able to actually understand the domain have the domain expertise and really bring them value that they need. So for example, on the Wishpond side, we worked with car dealerships in the past. We worked with healthcare providers in the past, but I can't say we can compete with someone who's focused on healthcare or car dealerships. So getting domain experts in those areas is quite helpful, both on the technology side as well as especially on the service delivery side.
Is there a chance that on the service delivery side, maybe you could buy, let's say, a non-technology company, let's say a service bureau that just focuses on car dealerships, let's say, and then you just use their expertise, sort of tune your product in that, and then get those service people sort of on a tuned platform that you have in whatever auto or whatever else?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure if it would be the service bureau, but it might be, let's say, a car dealership, an agency that focuses on car dealerships, as an example. So
Yeah.
One like that, we can actually come in, we can actually integrate our technology into it so that they would also be transformed from just a pure service company to a services and technology company. And then with their help and our sales expertise and technology expertise, then we can actually scale them. So that's part of the acquisition strategy on the agency side. But our first two acquisitions have been mostly on the technology side, and there might be more of our focus. I think initially is probably going to go into SaaS businesses, technology businesses, than on the agency side.
Sure. I'm pretty sure you mentioned this before, but can you just remind me how much of your revenue is just on the straight SaaS kind of software versus the agency more human touch software? What's your revenue split between those?
I think basically we don't have anything that is agency or service only. It's either pure self-serve or hybrid, right? Yeah. Everyone is using the technology as well. And the hybrid one, I think at this point is around half of our revenue. Gotcha. With the acquisitions, I would say probably on the lower end of that, but and pure self-serve ones are half. But the hybrid is the fastest growing one because there's more demand for it, and the price points are higher, and it makes more sense for us to scale there.
How many employees do you have right now? And are you like offshored or anything like that? So you can have people in different time zones to, but I guess most of your clients are in North America, so you don't have, your clients aren't working like 24/7. But how many employees do you have, and how scalable is that growth given your service bureau side of things?
I think right now we're at around 170 people. So that includes everyone at the Wishpond side, as well as Purchase IQ and Indigo acquisitions and people that we got on board there. And 170 is not all employees per se, it's employees in Canada, as well as full-time dedicated contractors around the world. And a lot of them in lower cost geographies as well. Wherever we can find top talent, basically.
All right. With the Persist IQ, that's a San Mateo, California company, Silicon Valley. Are you going to keep that office there? Is it nice to have a footprint in there, or I presume running out of British Columbia is a little bit cheaper than working out of the heart of California? There
yeah. Good question. At this point, I don't think there's a physical office. It's more of a mailbox and where the company is registered. But they're operating fully remotely. Even on the Wishpond side, we have our Vancouver office, but the lease is going to expire end of 2021. And since the pandemic started, since March of last year, we've been working remotely. Everyone is fully remote, and we don't have any plans to renew the lease. So. Us, as well as at least the two companies we have acquired so far, are not going to have a permanent office. We might have more like WeWork spaces or smaller office spaces, but nothing major.
Okay, I guess, that's the way the world is transforming. Or maybe just a small central office where you can have meetings and get-togethers, but you're not all going to be getting back together again like in the pre-pandemic days.
No, and there's a lot of cost savings, as well as convenience, as well as easier time recruiting top talent as well. That goes with that. On the cost saving side of it, not renewing our office is going to save us about $500,000 a year alone.
Yeah. I'm curious, with your clients, what changes over the last year with the pandemic have you seen from them? Is there greater demand from you, or what they're looking for? Is it different? How has your business changed since pandemic?
I think definitely we've benefited in the terms that a lot of businesses need to make the transition online, and we've been in a place that we've been able to help with that. So from that side of it, we've been doing well. I think one of the ways that it also has changed our business over the past year is that since pandemic started, we kind of, the verticals we focused on shifted more towards e-commerce and businesses that are kind of doing well in that climate. Now that things are opening up, we're also going back to, okay, let's actually revisit some of the verticals that we were going after again. There are, a lot of fitness and spas and, resorts and, B2B businesses that we can also target. So I think that's how the shift has happened. It has shifted us more towards targeting e-commerce businesses, and now we're planning to broaden it again.
All right. With the 2 acquisitions you've done, what is the sort of the technology integration path? Are you going to have a unified platform or kind of some parallel kind of technologies, or are you currently taking your Invigo clients and giving them the same services, but just having it on the original kind of Wishpond platform? How does that technology integrate?
We're in the works of integrating Invigo technology into Wishpond, and the same obviously is going to happen with Persist. That's just natural for us to actually have that all-in-one platform, become even more strengthened. But we will keep those identities and brands separately as well, because they do quite well on their own attracting new customers, and there are certain customers that with the Invigo side, for example, for healthcare, you can attract them through Invigo without really bothering about where the technology resides. And similarly with Persist IQ, but that's basically what the path is right now.
All right. And can you just explain the Persist IQ, explain their service offerings and what sort of value their technology has and how it complements to Wishpond?
Yeah, for sure. So Persist IQ is primarily built for B2B businesses that want to acquire new customers through sales more than marketing. So Wishpond has been more on the marketing side. Persist IQ has been more on the sales side, with sales automation tools that basically you use it for contacting and sending emails to your leads and following up with them automatically and warming them up so that you can close them. So it's for sales email automation mostly. It's very complementary to Wishpond because some of our clients already have needed it and we've had to use other third-party platforms. Now we can use Persist IQ. A lot of Persist IQ clients actually benefit from Wishpond software as well. And now we can actually expand on the B2B side of Wishpond even further because the value proposition is stronger than before.
Okay, so you're definitely getting a lot of technology out of the Persist IQ acquisition.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Going back to San Mateo, like you didn't pay a ton of money for it. It's a small and it's in the heart of Silicon Valley and all the VCs and so forth. Was this just, if it doesn't have the potential to grow at 200% a year and be a unicorn, the VCs don't care about it, so they call it a lifestyle business and let you sell it off for a few $1 million because they don't really care about it, or why was it caught up in the whole VC vortex down there?
I'm not sure. I can't really speak to that side of it. I think what was interesting was that this was a company that we used, and I followed the owners on LinkedIn, and I think we had an opportunity where some of the owners had created a spin-off and were launching a new business and raised good money for that, and that was kind of their new focus and attention. And I saw the opportunity and reached out, and sure enough, they were actually in the process of talking to a few buyers, and we were able to get in there. And I think the reason that they went with us and with the terms that we got was the fit is very natural, and they wanted to make sure the clients are in the right hands, and their team also has the right home after the acquisition. And that was the main reason that they got interested in selling to us.
Did the management and ownership, and I'm guessing they're the same thing in that because a relatively small business, have they fully joined Wishpond, or is there some sort of senior exits out of either of those acquisitions?
Invigo, the ownership is continuing with Wishpond and is now leading the Invigo side. On the Persis IQ side, the previous founders have started a new company, so that's basically their attention, and now we're running it.
Okay, all right. Or like you're going to do M&A. It doesn't sound like you're not like a roll-up per se. You're looking for strategic acquisitions that make sense, and that would be both like market segments, clients, and technology and services. Those kind of, if
100%.
a great client base, you could buy them and then just kind of roll their clients onto your platform if their technology is not the best. And
yep, you got it.
Okay. All right. Who do you consider your biggest competitors? Because in the CRM sales management space, they're like, you Google that and you get like a few billion results on that. Is it HubSpot or is it just that whole universe you're kind of competing with?
I think that's an interesting question. I think we have a ton of competitors. If you look at silo marketing automation platforms or marketing platforms, I think there's thousands of them these days.
Yeah.
But the difference is that the vast majority of them are, focused on one part of the puzzle. For a small business, they're not going to want to use multiple platforms. They're busy running their own business. They want just one simple platform that does it for them. On the other side, in terms of competitors, you can say, well, a marketing agency might be a competitor. They're not going to get technology, and the costs are going to be a lot higher for the business. So that's where we exist. In terms of all-in-one, I would say HubSpot is a good proxy to look at, because a lot of the functionalities that we've developed and we're adding are the kind of functionalities that HubSpot also has or is offering, but at higher prices. For example, they're starting plans for a lot of the marketing plans might be $800 a month, and then you need an agency to help you actually get the best out of it. Otherwise, you're going to pay that $800 and just send some newsletters. That's how a lot of people are using it. Or with Wishpond, you can pay $500 and we also run it for you, and you have best chance of success. So we're targeting more on the S side of SMB, and they're targeting more on the M side there, and kind of focusing on the businesses who have that CMO or the marketing team or an agency to lean on.
All right. Given you've got thousands of sort of competitors out there, how do you do your marketing? Is it just like SEO, buying Google ads and Facebook ads, or do you have your own people like phoning, or how do you gain your market share?
We have some inbound marketing because we've created blog posts and infographics and webinars and all of those things. We're actually published as part of some of the marketing textbooks that are taught in universities in North America. And because of that, we get a lot of inbound interest. But the most scalable part that we're actually growing is our outbound sales by, knocking on people's doors virtually, emailing them, calling them, and seeing if there's interest and booking demos and closing them. That's the main way we're doing that. And that's what I was earlier alluding to, that it costs us $1 in sales to win $3.50 of business. So that is quite scalable. And one of the ones that you mentioned, ads, we don't really run any ads for customer acquisition. We've seen that over time is generally it's very difficult to make that profitable. So we have our own ways of doing that.
And when you say the $1 to $3.50,
yeah,
is that like, if you spend $1,000 today, you'd get $3,000+ of revenue that year, or is that over sort of the estimated lifetime of the client?
That number is first year numbers only, so we're actually being conservative.
Okay, all right, that's good. We've got a question here, someone asking about your financials and what the financials would look like without acquisitions. I don't believe you have any. Do you have any acquisitions in the last year's financials? No. Or all the acquisitions happened this year?
They all happened this year. So all the numbers that you see in the financials that were released are just Wishpond without any acquisitions.
Are these your first two acquisitions ever, or back or more in your private days you did maybe some small ones?
No, we didn't do any acquisition when we were private.
Okay. You mentioned Shopify, which is a beast.
Right.
Honestly, I kind of know what Shopify is, and I don't really understand everything that they do, and you deep integrate with them. How you integrate with them, is that just basic sort of public APIs, or is there kind of an agreement you have with them? And then sort of part two with that, is Shopify a potential competitor to you, or were they one like do an Apple where all of a sudden they say, we're providing these kind of services, and you get kind of crushed like I don't know, like a Peloton by Apple?
So yeah, the integration, as I mentioned, is a deep integration for attribution, and passing events and setting up marketing automation around things that happen on Shopify. We have certain partnership with them more on the marketing side. It's not really a strategic partnership, if that's what you mean. Is more of what other companies can, I guess, go and apply and do as well. In terms of them being competitor, I don't know. Currently, I don't see it, because they're focused on giving you a storefront. We're focused in driving interest to that storefront. And even as great as e-commerce is for us, is still 25% of our revenue. So we're still quite diversified in terms of who we can serve and the breadth that we bring to them.
And when you say 25% e-commerce, so 25% of your customers are
in our revenue,
e-commerce space. The other ones are, let's say, like doctors and the
could be
car dealerships or whatever else.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. When and I try not to ask sort of valuation questions to CEOs too much, because it's not kind of your job to comment on that. But with the analysts that are looking out there, are they throwing EBITDA multiples on you to get forecasts, or is it on the revenue side? Because like SaaS companies that are super high growth ones can get up 20, 30 times revenue MRR multiples on that, depending on the week. It's pretty volatile. How do you see the market valuing you right now?
In terms of the analysts, I think they're looking at comparables in our space, and they're using top line revenue multiples for those kind of companies. And based on that, they're applying multiples to us based on the revenue projections that they see. I would say more conservatively. I think some of the ways the analysts are currently evaluating us is based on if Wishpond continued at that 30% year-over-year growth organically, and just the 2 acquisitions we've already made, and no more acquisitions, where would Wishpond be? So they're not counting on, well, we're doubling the sales team and we're going to do more acquisitions. So even though they say 70% growth and $3.20 target, I think we're gonna, we have more aggressive targets for ourselves.
Okay. And in terms of with that growth, and you mentioned something you planned or you want to be profitable, you've got a decent amount of money in your balance sheet. Are you going to, let's say for the next couple years, sort of manage your growth on to be kind of cash flow even? Or are you like, look, we're going to try to get $1 million on the bottom line every year, and then whatever more than that we have, we're going to spend it to drive growth? Or how are you managing your sort of growth spend?
I think for this year at least, we're kind of aiming to grow responsibly and still end the year on the positive. It doesn't have to be hugely profitable because we're reinvesting in growth aggressively, right? But long term, we do want to contribute quite a bit of free cash flow, so that it can be reinvested into growth. It can be reinvested into further acquisitions as well.
All right. Right now, you're primarily in North America. Do you have global expansion plans?
Well, we're currently used by clients everywhere in the world. Majority of the revenue is North America, as you said, but we have 6% of our revenue comes from Brazil, as an example, or 6% is from Europe. So there's a lot of potential in expanding in the rest of the world. It's not our immediate plan right now. I think we have our work cut out for us here. There are a lot of businesses. Value of the currency makes sense. Language, all of those things are quite straightforward for us. But it is one of the growth opportunities that we have in front of us in the future.
All right. I see there's another question here. I guess people trying to understand exactly what you do. And the question is, are you essentially a Hootsuite with a different target market by size of company? Or like, do you provide Hootsuite type services, or do you would maybe your clients would use a Hootsuite in addition to you?
We don't right now, even though there is a mini Hootsuite functionality available in Evergenius Invigo platform. But Hootsuite is basically used for managing your social media posts and scheduling posts ahead of time and those kind of things. Our platform is used for setting up your website, setting up landing pages, contests, and pop-ups to drive traffic to it, setting up emails to keep your customers engaged, collecting payments, those things. So it's not just for social media management, but ours is more for generating leads and sales.
Okay, so you compete against a Wix type of thing where you can build your own website.
On the website side of it, you could say, yeah.
Okay, and then you what's the email marketing companies? You provide email marketing. MailChimp. Yeah. And then you do sort of CRM, sales management type stuff, and okay, and then those are all integrated. So you take from your client, send them an email, or do all that.
Exactly. The CRM functionality right now is part of Invigo. That is not integrated into the platform yet, but all the other ones you mentioned are fully integrated. Calendar booking, CRM functionality are being integrated in.
I don't know if you want to say this because maybe your competitors will be watching or that. Can you talk about your product roadmap? You've mentioned a little bit calendar, integrate the CRM. Any other sort of directions or add-ons that you're planning or you can talk about that you want to add to the system?
The ones that I've mentioned right now in terms of calendar booking, really, if you think about it, with the acquisition of Invigo and the technology platform that they have, everything that Evergenius does comes first in terms of us rolling it out and making it part of the Wishpond platform. So that can kind of tell you a bit about the product roadmap in terms of calendar booking, in terms of CRM functionality, call tracking, SMS functionality.
All right. And you did not have CRM functionality, but you got that through your
Invigo acquisition.
That's Invigo. Right. Okay. And then about how long does it take for you to sort of integrate that so it's part of the full kind of Wishpond service offering?
Hopefully not a lot of time, but it's hard for me to answer that right now. And I think in addition to us having our own integration with Invigo that we're working on with CRM, we also integrate with a variety of different CRM platforms because we realize that a lot of people might already be comfortable with what they're using. So we have integration with Salesforce, Pipedrive, and we also have integration with Zapier, which is a marketplace of other thousands of platforms. So, if we don't have native integration with your CRM or the system you're using, chances are through Zapier, you can integrate us with any platform.
All right. So if I'm already on, let's say, MailChimp, I could use...
We have integration with MailChimp as well, by the way.
Yeah. So I wouldn't have to migrate off of MailChimp. I could just integrate it with you. And then if it's too much of a pain to move over, then I'm paying sort of duplicating some services.
Exactly. Exactly. Because they might already be comfortable with it, or they might have templates that they've set up and newsletters that they set up. So we want to make adoption of Wishpond easy. So it integrates, it synchronizes with it, and as they get more comfortable with using the rest of the functionalities, they could say, "Oh, wait a second, I can actually just stop paying for MailChimp and just send emails through Wishpond as well. It's just easier."
Yeah. All right. I'm running out of questions here. We're coming up to an hour on this, so thanks for your time. Is there anything you want to highlight that we didn't get into, or just closing comments to the audience here?
No, I just want to thank everyone for being here, and thank you very much, Martin, for having me. It's been a pleasure, and looking forward to speaking with you again in the future.
All right, that's great. Thanks for talking to us. That was very informative. Have a great day, and we'll talk again soon. Cheers.
For sure. Take care.